I think this is misinformation. Al-Hash al-Sha'bi didn't take part in any way in the battle to liberate Mosul itself.
They were on the outskirts, and I have seen them in the streets of Mosul.
Well, not in Mosul. They didn't take part at all in Mosul. Maybe later on, when we liberated it, some locals who are part of Al-Hash moved, but in the war of liberating Mosul, none of the Hash al-Sha'bi took part in liberating Mosul. That's definite. That's definite. That was a decision taken by us. Al-Hash al-Sha'bi, they moved to the western Nainawa, to the villages neighboring Syria. We moved to that direction. They have the ability to fight in the desert, but inside Mosul, they didn't take part. Number two, we allowed many corridors for the civilians to leave. I myself, I was checking on the casualties. You know, under the debris, we have many casualties, many dead bodies. They give me numbers of civilians. Every time I ask for number of women and children among the civilians. I'll give you this data and you go and check. 1,400 casualties, there were only 8 women and children.
Sorry?
8.
You were saying,
only 8 out of 1,400.
You were saying there were only 8 women and children killed in Mosul?
Yes, that's, no. I mean, these were under the debris. Under the debris.
I've seen many more bodies of women and children in Mosul. We all have.
Where? In Mosul? In the city?
In the city. In the city. Hundreds of them. There were approximately, according to the morgue, approximately 3,000 bodies. And I don't want to get too much into detail, but I think this is a really important issue because it goes to being Iraqi and who is Iraqi and who is not Iraqi.
No, I've looked at the data. I'm definitely about that. From the mortuary, this is official data. At the time, it reached 1,400. The number of body counts, the number of children and women were less than 10. 8.
So just to make sure I understand, your information was that less than 10 women and children were civilians?
Out of 1,400. Probably the number later has increased a bit. That was at one stage. I was there. In the last quarter, in the last probably less than half a kilometer, there were terrorists. And I've been told there may be some families. I spent my time, I remember at that time, they asked why alabadi didn't announce victory. Because there was still a very small area. I know we can win it, it's very easy. But we wanted to make sure there were no civilians among the terrorists who were there. And I checked myself from this flight, which is non-manned flights. I checked myself, looking in the streets, looking who's moving there, who's going around. I made sure that there was no civilians, only combatant. You know what Daesh wanted to do? They want to hold back in these areas so that we have to negotiate with them, so that they will leave with their arms, as were happening in some cities in Syria. We'll end up destroying the cities and allowing them to leave.